tell you any decisions about dating because there are exes in the house. That's why.
Hey!
Wow! Hey! Top hour. Here he is. Go.
Hello? Can you hear me? Good. I'm going to tell you a story about Harold's tombstone, but nobody dies, so think about that. When I was in my 20s, some friends and I used to go canoeing on the Hall River near Chapel Hill. That river, that section of river is now dammed up, it doesn't exist anymore. But I want you to kind of envision what this looked like, this river, this section of the river. So there's a straight, pretty wide section, nice flow of water. You get to this place where on the left, part of the river drops off. It branches off and it drops faster than in the part that goes straight ahead. And it drops a little bit and then it immediately turns back kind of parallel with the main flow of the water. So you've got sort of this S-curve there. And just as you turn left, there's a tree branch, a pretty good sized tree branch, that hangs over the water. If the water's low, you can get under it really easily. If the water's high, you have to duck down and your canoe just fits under. And if you duck low enough, you don't get your head knocked off. And then you have to pop up right away and immediately turn right. Okay? So you got the picture of what this river looks like. And that's the way we would go. We would take that left branch because the water dropped and there's more water, it's more fun. Now, just after you popped up and the river, this part of the river starts to straighten out, there's a rock. And the rock is that much out of the water. And the rock is about yay big around. And it's kind of big rock right in the middle of the river. So you've ducked under the branch, you've popped up, you've turned right, and there's a rock right in front of you. And you have to decide, this is the decision part, you have to decide, am I going left or am I going right? Because there's a rock. You don't get to just go with the flow or you're going right into the rock. All right, so that's kind of the situation. And now I want to tell you about the people. So on this particular river trip, we had my friends Bill and Betsy. They're in the lead canoe. And in the second canoe is my friend Harold and his friend Jim. I'll call him Jim, I don't remember his name, who had never been with us before. In fact, he'd never been canoeing before. And then in the back boat is my friend Dennis and me. And as we were first on the upper part of the river, where it's smoother and easier, we were smoking some stuff and drinking some stuff, and just generally having a good time, nice sunny day. But it had been raining, which meant the water was a little high. Remember what I said about the branch? The water's high, you've got to duck. You're going to lose your head, you know. Well, the water was high. So Harold, not always the best person at making decisions of anybody I knew, had decided that alcohol was absolutely his drug of choice for that day, and that if he had a lot of it, he'd have more fun than if he had a little bit. So he'd had a lot. Now, another thing about whitewater canoeing and an open canoe is it's really better if the heavier person is in the back, a lighter person is in the front. Because then the boat's kind of like that. Because you don't want the boat going down the river like that, right? And you also want the more experienced person in the back, because you can control a canoe better from the back than you can from the front. Well, Harold was the heavier, he was the more experienced, and he was the more drunk.
Yeah.
So he told his friend Jim, who'd never been in a canoe before, I'm getting in the front, because I'm more comfortable up front. So they're going down the river like this with drunk Harold in the front. And Dennis and I are in the back watching them thinking, oh my God. So we get to this particular section that I described to you of the river. And Bill and Betsy make the turn, they drop down, they pop up, they've done this so many times, they knew just what to do. They go to the right. The right is better. As you come up, you're already kind of turning to the right, so you really have to pull to the right to get around that rock to the right. But there's more water. Try to go to the left, there's not as much water, it's a little bit harder, and you've got to really kind of force your way across before the river shoves you into the rock. Bill and Betsy, they do what we usually do. Cut to the right, they're past the rock. Dennis and I are watching. Harold and Jim, we warned Jim about this whole situation ahead of time. So they go down, they go under the branch. They pop up, and Harold goes to the left and Jim goes to the right.
Oh my God.
This is not a good decision.
No.
So now they're sideways to the river. They're still upright, but they're sideways to the river. The river's pretty heavy, it's been raining. The water is pushing them towards the rock. And the proper thing to do at that point would be to paddle really hard and go around the left side of the rock. But Jim starts paddling that way, and Harold starts paddling that way. And so they smack up against the rock. And they're just sitting there when Dennis and I pop up from going under the branch, and they're in our way. They're across the river, against the rock, still upright at that point. And so you have never seen two guys backpedal as fast as Dennis and I backpedal to try to hold the canoe in place and ram into them. And we managed to hold it and then move around to the right. And as we're moving around to the right, we watch their canoe. It's sitting there against the rock. Water's hard against it. Slowly roll upstream. So it rolls upstream. They roll out. Now you're thinking about an open canoe. It's kind of opened. It's got the, kind of little bit enclosure at the front and back of the canoe. And the river just caught the front and back of that canoe and wrapped it around there. Just folded it right around the rock. It was an ABS, which is a kind of plastic, not real brittle, not like fiberglass. Wrapped it around the rock. Dumped them in the water. Their paddles go floating by. Bill and Betsy are downstream a little ways. They have turned around to make sure Harold and Jim get past this okay, and they see this is not happening. So they grab one of the paddles. We lost one of the paddles. Dennis and I pulled over to the side. We pulled over to the side to watch. We're like, oh, great. All right, what are we going to do here? So we got our canoe down to where Bill and Betsy could hold our canoe. And Dennis and I were back up through the water. It's like waist high, rushing river, not exactly easy to walk in. Get back up there. Harold is like, oh my God, I gotta get in your canoe, I gotta get in your canoe. We're like, no, you're gonna help us get this canoe out. This is a rented canoe. It's like a gazillion-dollar deposit. We've gotta get this canoe out. Even if it's in two pieces, we gotta take it back and say, sorry, here's the 2 pieces. So we got Harold and Jim and Dennis and I, we get there, and the canoe by now is under the water. It's under the river, it's wrapped around the rock, the water is rushing into the front and back of the canoe, it's folded around the rock. And we get there, 2 of us on each side, and we slowly slide this thing up the rock. We slowly slide it out of the water until the river doesn't have a hold of it anymore. We turn it upside down, we dump the water out. And then an amazing thing happens. The canoe pops back into shape. We thought, we were going to take a folded canoe back on our shoulder or something. It had aluminum gunnels along the top edge of the canoe. It was aluminum strips. The aluminum had snapped. But the canoe itself popped back into roughly the right shape. So we put, I forget how we matched people up. We did not put those 2 guys back in that. We put one of us with Harold and said, shut up, sit there, we'll take you in. We put Jim in another canoe. Anyway, we got back in the canoes, a little bit different order. We had 1 paddle for one of the canoes. The guy had to paddle and somebody else. I think Harold rode in the front. He didn't get it. Oh, there's my warning. So we took the canoe back, returned it. I don't remember what they said. I think Bill took it in. I don't know. But we just, from that moment on, we called that rock Harold's Tombstone. And to this day, I remember that story. Harold went on to be a dentist, and thank God I am not his patient.